Welcome back to Same Right Fashion Academy YouTube channel for another interesting tutorial. In this tutorial, I'll be teaching you how to sew this beautiful bustier blouse with peplum and layered cape. So here you can see the capes are layered, as you can see right there on the right side and on the left side. So this is what the back looks like. So this is what the back of this dress actually looks like. So the neckline, I decided to make it a little bit higher. So if you want yours to expose the back just as it is in the thumbnail, you can also do as well. So if this is what you want to learn in this class, I will encourage you to stay till the end of this tutorial to learn more. Thank you. This tutorial, you need your basic bodice pattern. So here I've drafted my basic bodice pattern and I used my pencil to make a little sketch of how the neckline is going to look like. So here is my vertical lines up to the waistline. So that is my chest line and this is my shoulder line. So my shoulder divided by 2 is 8 inches and I connected my armhole line. My bust dart is 2 inches. So this is what I have on my basic bodice pattern. So just go ahead and make your half scale basic bodice pattern with the waist dart and the bust dart. Then we'll now start up this tutorial. So I'll be using a princess dart for this dress. So the first thing I'm going to do is to take my neckline at 3.5. So this is a plus size. I'm using 3.5 for the natural neckline. So I'm going to contour the under bust. You can see my center front. So whatever you have on the under bust, divide by 4. What you have remaining, add 0.25. And the rest of it, you add it on the side. So whichever way you know how to contour your underbust, just go ahead and use it. But I like to use this pattern I'm using now, this method I'm using. So I'm going to connect the underbust. You can see how I'm placing my ruler to connect it. I'll connect up to the underbust line. Then I'll use my straight ruler to connect. Actually, the difference between the underbust and the waistline for this dress is 1 inch. So you can see how short it is. So the shaded area, I'm going to cut it out because I've contoured my underbust. So like I said, I'm making a princess dart. So I'll just take my measurement of the armhole and get the midpoint. So I have 11 inches. The midpoint right there is 5.5. So I'll go ahead and connect my princess dart right away. If you want to use a shoulder dart, no problem too. So I'm going to divide from my natural neckline, my shoulder divide by 2, and I'll connect it to the bust point. That is if you want to use a shoulder dart. But for this dress, I'm not using a shoulder dart. I'm using a princess dart. So I'll just go ahead with my curve ruler and connect half the shoulder, which I just measured right now. So I'm going to connect it, as you can see. So I will just come down one more inch from half the shoulder because I really want it to be not too high. So I'm going to connect to the armhole. So this is my princess dart, which I'm making right away. So I'll come out by 1 inch and I'll blend it back into the armhole. So the dress is ready. We want to go over to the neckline right now. The pattern is ready. So the neckline, I came down by 3.5 first. Then I went in by 2 inches. You can go in by 1.5 if you are on a smaller size. Then from that point, I came down by 3 inches or 3.5 and came in by 2 inches again. I made a straight line at that point. So I just made a square of 2 inches. I will use it to blend the neckline. So I'll just go ahead and make a U at that point, as you can see. So just try and blend the neckline very well. So first use broken lines. Then when you are done with the neckline, you highlight the lines. So I'll come in by 3 inches from my shoulder and I'm going to come out by 2 inches from that point once again and connect it, extend my line and then connect it to the 3 inches I made before. So I'll come down by half an inch at that point, then blend the neckline. So this neckline is actually your choice. You must not follow exactly this, but if you want to follow what is on the thumbnail, this is how the neckline is made. So I'm going to blend that part. Can you see what I'm doing? I'm trying to blend that part. So if you blend it, just give it a good U shape. So I'm using my pattern ruler to see if I can make that U shape look better than the freehand. So I'll keep blending using the inner part of my ruler. So here is the pattern for the front, and the pattern for the front is ready to cut right now. So I have my pattern into two, F1 and F2, which I've just labeled. So I'll just go ahead and cut what I have on my pattern. So like I said, this is a princess dart which we are making right here. So I'll just follow the lines I made and cut them out accordingly. Then after cutting it out, we are going to jump into the back piece. Although the back piece is not difficult, it's actually very easy to make. So I'm just showing you how I'm cutting this right on camera, so you see how it's being cut. So I'll cut out the dart area right now, and then after cutting the dart, the next is to close up the bust dart. So I'll just bring in my adhesive right away, and I'm going to close up my bust dart immediately. So the front pattern is ready for cutting on our fabric. So we are going to move over to the back pattern right now. So here is my back pattern. Just go ahead and make your normal half scale back pattern. Then after making it, we'll go ahead to alterate. But note that the length of the back will be shorter by 2 inches because of the bust dart technique. So I have 16 inches at the back and 18 inches for the front. So I'll just go ahead and I use my actual bust circumference divided by 4 and waist divided by 4. But now I'm contouring 1 inch to avoid zip bust. So after contour, this is my new zip back center back line. So I'll now take my actual waist divided by 4 and my actual bust divided by 4. So that is exactly what I did right now, and I connected everything back. So the neckline I used for the front, I came in by 3 inches and 5 inches at the depth, neck depth. So your neck can be 7 inches depth if you want the neck depth deeper. So the neck width is the same with the front anyway. So I've made the neckline. So this is what I got at the end of the day. So the back is ready. Like I said, there is no dart attached to this particular back. So 1 inch is my back contour line. So you can see I replaced everything. So by taking my measurement from the new center back. So now I'm going to cut out the back pattern right away. So once I'm done cutting it, we are going to cut on fabric immediately. So the back is going to have a zipper at the center back. We are using a zipper for it, and I made the back dartless. Okay, so if you want to put a dart, you can go ahead and make a princess dart for it, but I don't think that is necessary for now. So the patterns are ready. The back pattern, the front pattern, everything is ready. The next stage is to go over to cut. So before I cut, I make sure I hasted my fabric. So I'm using 6 yards of Ankara right here. I will use it for the upper and the skirt piece. Okay, so actually the upper part has a peplum. I'll be using 4 yards for it and 2 yards for the skirt. So I have my doffé satin fabric too, which I'm going to use to form the cape. So I've cut out my pattern and I added a half an inch, 1 inch for zipper, half an inch all around the neckline, and the center front is on fold, and the side is 1.5 I added to the side seam. So now the next thing we are going to do is to make notches to the underbust, so when joining them it will be very much easy for us to join. So I'll take off my pattern right now because we want to create the padding. So I love to use my pattern to create my padding. So I'll just go ahead and from the bust point I'll take the bust radius. So I'm using 4 inches right here because the bust point to the under bust is 4 inches difference. So I'll just mark it the way I'm marking it to create the bust part. So anyhow you know how to pad your underbust, just go ahead to pad. The main purpose of this tutorial is to show you how the cape is sewn. I already have a detailed tutorial on this channel on how I attach the 720 degrees peplum, so you can check it out on the channel too. So I've created the bust padding. So the next I want to do now is to cut it off in my wadding. Okay, so I've created it using my bust span all around from the bust point. So I'll just cut it off as you can see right there. So I'll just go ahead and place it on my wadding and cut. So I've cut it out on my wadding. This is how I added my seam allowances. On the wadding I added half an inch. So this wadding can be also known as feasible fleece in some countries. So it has a sticky part. I'll just place that sticky part on the part I made my notch, and I will secure with my pin on the front side. Then I'll proceed to the ironing table after pinning all of these parts to hairstay. So the hairstay will help it to lay nice and flat. So I'm also going to place the wadding on the other part of the bustier. So make sure you align it well. The sticky part and the upper part has to lay according. You can see I made mark on the upper part. So after hairstaying, this is what I have. So the next stage right now is to start from the downside to join the bustier. So I'm done joining the bustier. You can see what I have right here with the lining. I also joined the lining and ironed them nicely. So the next thing we are going to do now is to bring the back pattern. So we'll be joining the shoulder seam lines of the back pattern, right and left. I will keep joining them, the lining right and left, we keep joining like that, like that. So I'll just proceed to the sewing. So I'm done sewing and ironing. I have the full back and front together with lining. So I will lay them nicely on the shoulder seam lines because I want to go and stitch 0.5 inch of the neckline all around. So here I'm done stitching and I gave it a good press, so you can see how neat and beautiful everything is looking right here. So I'm going to join the sides at 1.5 inch, which was my seam allowance. So I'm done joining, as you can see. So next is to create the peplum. So like I said, I already have a detailed video on how I created this 720 peplum with pleating. So this is the pleated part. So if you want to watch how I made this, please, I'll drop the link on the description box below. Just click on the link and watch. So I'm going to mark out the center front of this dress only on the fabric to attach my peplum. So I made a notch to it and I bring in my peplum, my pleated peplum, and also got the midpoint. So I attach it at the midpoint. So I'm going to stitch only on the fabric from one end to the other. So after stitching, this is what I have. So I'm going to turn it this way to stitch the lining because I need a perfect inseam finishing. So now I'm going to pin all the dart line, seam line, anywhere you have any line at all, just make sure they match. So here I've stitched at 0.5. So I'm going to bring out this dress from the zipper line so that at the end of the day the peplum will look neat and beautiful. So this is what I have after I'm done turning it. So you can see the inside is very, very neat. I also use crinoline for this. So just go ahead and watch this video, okay, if you want to have this dress exactly the way it is. So we are done with the peplum. So we want to now attach the zipper. So here I've attached my zipper. So just go ahead and attach your zipper how you know how. So now the dress is ready. The next thing is we are going to take the measurement of where the cape is going to be. So the length of the cape to the waist is 20 inches. So what I did is multiply 20 inches by 2 because there are some folds. 22 inches, sorry. So by 2 will give me 44. Then I'm cutting 180 degrees. So I'll divide by 3.14. So if you are cutting 180, of course this cape is cut at 180 if you want to have it exactly the way it is on the thumbnail. So here I have 14 inches. So I'm going to fold my paper. I'm going to cut on paper because it has layers. So here is 14 inches and the radius is 14 inches. So I have my first length at 15 inches. So the first length is at 14 inches, sorry. So you can see 180 degrees. I just folded my paper, okay, once before I now went ahead and create the radius. So I'll cut out the radius. So after cutting out the radius, we'll start dividing this into sections. You know we have 4 sections of this cape. So the full length is 14 inches. Now we are going to start dividing to have the whole length we need. So first of all, taper this part before you divide. This is one part we are tapering. The part at the front has to be tapered the way I did. That is the part for the front. And the part for the back is going to be straight, just straight, the way the peplum is cut. The flay is cut. So now to divide this, I'm going to start from I have 14 inches. So this 14 inches, I'm going to go up by 4 inches. The first one is 4 inches. The first on top is 3.5. So just mark 3.5 and the rest you mark them at 4 inches. So I'm marking the 4 inches like that, 4 inches. So 4 inches, 4 inches like that. So that is how I divided this cape. So just go ahead and connect it. So you can see how I'm connecting them. So make sure the 4 inches you marked is correct. So the total is 14 inches actually. So the first one was 3.5 and the rest was about 4 inches, okay. So you can see I have 1, 2, 3, 4 of them, of the capes. So I have to remark the neck, that part. That is the way it should lay. So just make everything start from the starting point and connect accordingly, okay. So now we are going to start the cutting on our fabric. So I just fold my fabric into 2, place my cape and cut it. You can see it's placed into 2. So I'm going to cut the first one, which will be the base of this layered cape. So I'll just go ahead and cut the base of the layered cape. So after cutting it, I'm going to hairstay and I'm going to stitch and top stitch. So after doing that, so you can see I cut only 2 for one side. So I will place it on top of another fabric and cut. So here I have 4 for right and left. The cape is on the right and on the left. So you have to cut 4 pieces. So you'll be able to sew both lining fabric of the cape like that. So I'm taking off my pins and I'll go ahead to hairstay. Make sure you hairstay only one side so you'll be able to stitch this. So I'm done cutting now. So I just picked up one and I'm pinning it. You can see how I'm pinning. I'm pinning in the direction that I can remove my pin after I'm done hairstying. So I have to remove the other one because I have two capes there. So you see what I'm doing very well. So now I'm done sewing. I top stitched and I also gave it a good press. So the first layer is ready. You can see how it is. It's very much ready. So we are going to move over to the second layer right now. So coming over to the second layer, all I'm going to do is to remove one layer, which is the fourth layer. You cut out the fourth layer. So it's actually the same process, but I just want you to see how I'm doing this. You cut out the fourth layer, and whatever you have, you place it on fabric too. So here I'm going to place this particular one on fabric. So I'm taking off that layer and I'm going to place this on fabric right now. So I'm going to follow the same pattern I used to cut the base to cut this layer. In fact, that is how I'm going to do for all. So here I have two pieces, and I made it 4 pieces too. So it has to be 4 pieces before stitching. So this is the second layer. The second layer is nicely ironed. So now we are going to cut out that third layer. We'll cut it off, and then we are going to repeat the same process we did for the first and the second layer. So that is how you keep cutting off, cutting and placing on fabric, hairstying, and then sewing, top stitching till you get all the capes. So this is actually it's much work. So if you want to make this dress, you have to be ready. So the third layer is ready now and stitched. So we are going to bring back the pattern and cut out the second layer. So I'll just go ahead and cut. I'm going to cut that part, and that will be the end of the cape. So I'll take that part away, then place this on fabric and cut 4 pieces as well. So here I have 4 pieces, as you can see. So I'll just go ahead and stitch and top stitch. So this is what I have. So all the layers are ready right now for stitching together. So the next thing I'm going to do is to bring back that first layer. You place the first layer. The part that is top stitch has to be under. That is the back of the cape, and this is the front of the cape. So I'll just go ahead and place the second layer on top of the first one. Make sure you arrange them very well. So after that, I'm going to place the next layer on top of it, and make sure you arrange them very well. Then I'm going to place the last layer, which should be number 1, like that. So I'm going to secure with my pin, and I'll head over to the sewing machine to stitch. So when stitching this might actually be thick on your machine, but I just tried to stitch. So next we'll bring in the dress and mark where we are going to sew this cape. So from the neckline, come out by 0.75 and then measure 7 inches depth and mark. Okay, so we are going to make a straight line from that point to that 7 inches. That is for the front. Then coming over to the measurement, make sure they are equal. So I'm just making sure what I have at the shoulder line is equal to the 7 inches part. Now for the back, we are going to also come from that 0.5 inch, and we'll make a straight line up to the point of the armhole. So I measured 4 inches from the zipper to the armhole area. So that is how I'm going to connect my straight line. So I want you to pay attention to how the lines I'm going to sew this cape. This is very important. If you want this cape to look like what we have on the thumbnail, follow these video instructions, especially on this part. So now from that armhole line, I'm going to mark another line, but before that, just come in by 0.4 4 inches. 4 inches from the armhole, just make a slanted line. Can you see? So it has to go in a zigzag form, and this one from that 4 inches we go to the waistline. Okay, so you come straight down, straight to the armhole, then you come down to the to the waistline like that. So here is my cape. So I'm going to sew it, show you how to sew it on that line. So I will bring in the dress with the marking, and I'm going to place my cape. I will place it the other way around. So I'm going to sew it in an inverted form. So I'll proceed to follow those lines that I marked on the table. So I'm going to sew them accordingly. I'll just go ahead and sew. I'll sew on those lines starting from the front. I'll just sew a straight line from that front. I'll keep sewing. So what I'm doing is just following those lines. So that's why I asked you to pay attention on how the marking is done, because the stitching process is not a problem. It's just for you to follow that marking and sew as I'm sewing. So once you get to the zigzag part, you just turn your dress and also turn your flay. So I'll keep sewing. So if it is thick, you can just sew 2 pieces and leave the other piece. So you can see I'm raising the seam line. I have 4 pieces right there. I'm just raising 2 up, so I'll be able to sew the other one accordingly. So from the armhole line, I'm going to sew following that line to the waistline. So once I get to the waistline right now, the next thing I'm going to do is I'll sew to the following that line. Then if I get to the waistline, I'll turn it the way I'm turning right now. So then you can see the peplum part, so you just go ahead and stitch that part. So you can see how I'm turning it. That's why I'm showing this part, so you understand how it's being turned. So after stitching this part, the dress is ready almost. So I will go ahead and maneuver my way around it. So it's not actually an easy project. So here you can see what I have. The cape is very much ready and it's looking very, very beautiful. So you can decide to use bias to finish up the armhole line because it's a sleeveless, or if you want, you can attach a sleeve. So my client wants a sleeve for this dress, so I just went ahead to attach a short sleeve for her. So here is the short sleeve. You can see it right there inside the dress. So that is how we'll come to the end of this tutorial. I believe you learned a lot from this tutorial. So please don't forget to subscribe, share this video so that it goes viral. Thank you for coming, and see you in the next class. Bye.